Well, good morning, everyone. My apologies for the little delay in starting. Good. How is the master's going? What courses did you have yesterday?
Video management.
Okay, still with Borja?
Yeah, last day.
That was it? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to start with Javi, and you already had the first session with Germán, I guess. Germán, no? On the- Perfect. Excellent. Good. Okay, so today we continue with our introduction to international aid, okay, with quite challenging simulation. Okay, you know I like simulations, okay? So I have prepared one today that will take most of our class, okay, where you will play the role of the donor and the recipient. Okay? But I mean, first of all, we'll do, of course, our lost text very quickly, and then I'll give you some key information about what ODA is, about bilateral aid. Okay? And with all of this, you will have the elements already to have a better understanding of what are the dynamics, you know, between donors and recipients, okay, or partners. Okay. So, as you know, we're now in section 3. Okay. You know, the recommendations here, prepare the session well, be on time. The name card, I see most of them there, but still not all of them, please. Go to the name cards, okay? Smartphones, please, all of them from now on out of the table and in the end of the session. Shouldn't see any smartphone on the table, please. Okay. Computers, as usually, we'll be using them when they are useful for academic purposes and Good. Okay, so let me prepare. Okay. Okay. Now you can start whenever you want. Usually you go to section 3, you will find the lower states of your studies, and you can go ahead and do it. Anyone has a problem, please raise your hand.
Hi, Pablo. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kesia and Lucia, how are you?
Yes,
Great,
fine,
thank you. Good
you.
morning.
Please, can you project the slides?
Hi.
Now, but now you should focus in doing the test. Okay?
Okay.
So go ahead to Blackboard, go to Blackboard, session 3, and you will find it there.
Pablo, please, would I be able to do the test in a couple of minutes? I'm driving at the moment.
It is now, sorry. It's really now or never. Remember,
Sorry?
it's now or never. But
Okay.
remember, it's not, it's not the end of the world. The two lowest grades in the test will not count for your final grade, so it's okay. You have a problem with it.
Okay.
Okay, now the screen. For you. If anyone has any problem, please just raise your hand and I will try to help. Okay?
Hello, Pablo. The link is not working for me. I keep on opening it. Esther here, sorry. And it tells me there's an error.
Okay.
I also have never.
Okay, so for those who have an error, if this is the case, so I guess I will not be able to help you. You can send me an email, okay, telling me what happened, and I will try to deal with it later.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, if these are questions about the content, all right, okay. Yes. Yes. Very well. Anyone hasn't finished yet? Raise your hand, please. Hasn't finished. Good. Okay, thank you very much. I just very quickly saw the result. And so most of the large majority got either 4 out of 4 or 3 out of 4. Okay, so thank you again for the hard work preparing the class. Okay, I know it's challenging. It's a very compressed class in a very few days, but I really want to make the best out of it because it's really critical for you to have a good footing in starting the masters. Yeah? So, let us now jump into the class. Okay? And today we're going to talk about what foreign aid is, and especially the bilateral aid. Okay, you already have a bit about it. No, please. You already know a little bit about it. Okay, we're going to get into some more detail. Okay, so good. Now we can load the computers. We need 4 computers now. Okay. Right. That applies also to tablets. No. So no computers, no tablets. Okay. And now let's focus in what is happening here in the class.
Can you take notes on the computer?
So good. So what is behavioral recuperation? Okay, this is already something that you have already heard about it. Okay, purposes are about guaranteeing universal basic standards for social protection. We talk about basic welfare, if you remember. Okay. Convergence about countries' standards of living or economic development. Okay. And also provision of international public goods. If you remember, we talked also about it in the previous session, where we were talking about these common challenges of mankind, where despite the geopolitical situation, all countries acknowledge that they need basically together to solve like climate change, like financial stability, like eventually the challenges of artificial intelligence. So international development cooperation normally is focused in these three main purposes. Okay, shouldn't be driven by profit. Okay, discrimination in favor of the developing countries. Okay, based on cooperation. Okay, and basically, if we look at the different types, the three most important are financial, most important, capacity support, technical support, and the policy change. Okay, this is the, let's say, what we have been understanding as international development cooperation for the last 50 years, eventually 60 years. Here, you don't need to work through this, but you will have it, okay, just for your information. What are the main instruments, okay, that normally we will use in international development cooperation? Okay. We will see them more in detail during the next sessions. Okay. Now, okay, let's go to some official definitions. Okay. So first of all, okay, the OECD, okay, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, okay, defines foreign aid as financial flows, technical assistance, and commodities that are one, designed to promote economic development and welfare, okay, as the main objective, and two, provided as either grants or subsidized loans, which means loans in very, let's say, preferential conditions. Okay, so normally that means loans with a low period of repayment, okay, or eventually a very low interest rate, or eventually zero interest rate in some cases. Okay. So, and for many years, okay, this is changing, but still is important for you to know. For many years, okay, the main indicator for foreign aid is ODA, okay, the official development aid. Okay, so what this is flow to countries and territories on the DAC list of ODA recipients. That means basically a list defined by the OECD with the countries that are, let's say, poor enough to receive aid. It's maybe not eventually very politically correct way to say it, but that's basically the concept. Okay, and then okay, this aid should be one, provided by official agencies. Okay, and two, okay, still this idea that the goal is promotion of economic development and welfare. Okay, and it's concessional, which means it's provided with very good conditions, either as grants or as loans with very good conditions. So when we talk about concessional, there is like kind of some more information about what that means. I'll leave here and give you guys as a copy, but I think really critical to know now. Okay. So why do countries provide foreign aid? Yes.
Oh, this,
Proceed. Yeah, please.
from the reading, sometimes it's for political motives. Maybe they want a better reputation internationally. They want to solidify their standing in the region as like a hegemon, or they want like a UN seat. Something to be political.
Yeah. So there are like geopolitical interests, okay? Like providing aid can give you eventually like kind of a political clout. The country, as you say, can cement your international standing also, okay? And eventually these countries, in some important moments, and for example, the vote in the United Nations Assembly, eventually will have an interest in supporting you because, of course, we are supporting them. Have you heard you? You heard me? Okay, good. What else? Your name? Angie, please, go ahead.
To help promote stability in the regions that might be suffering through a crisis or conflict.
Yeah. Promote stability. Like provide support to the country, basically because you want, and why would they like to promote stability?
So for example, if there is an issue in their like continent, for example, that could then lead to like migrant crises
Yeah.
and things that could then affect that country that would want to provide the aid.
Yeah, but why would they care? Why would I don't know, the UK care about migrant crisis in Liberia?
It will eventually make their way up to the UK.
Okay, so is that's one reason for sure? Okay, will there be other reasons?
Cost of war, if war breaks out, for example, then like these countries then have to like choose sides, like provide military aid and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. Exactly. Also, yes. Federica,
I
please.
think also for strategic interests.
Yeah.
To foster international trade.
Yeah.
Not only like to improve the situation in those countries, but also to benefit in their own.
Yes. So no one has talked about improving the situation yet as a goal. Okay. So you're saying it's not only the geopolitical interest, it can be also the economical interest, through eventually promoting trade, eventually when you provide aid, you can say, okay, I give you aid, but why don't you hire my companies to provide the aid? You know, of course, or why don't you buy my products? Okay. Good. Here on the other side, your name is
Nicole.
Alejo.
Nicole.
Nicole. Nicole. Yes.
Not only to like promote economic improvement, but to maintain economic stability. Like exports can deteriorate if a country's relying on certain exports that leave like money that they're not receiving.
Yeah. Yeah. So promote that kind of promote stability in the international trade system. Gupta, please.
I guess they owe reparations because of colonization. Because the Belgian aid goes to Africa because of that reason.
Yeah. This is certainly a strong feeling in many former colonial countries, saying we somehow owe something that the countries that were colonized, so somehow we need to support them. Is this?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. You're okay. Good. Yeah. Fully agree. Nothing else?
Well, I mean, there's always.
Your name is?
Oh, sorry, Freya.
Sorry?
Freya.
Korea.
Yeah.
Good.
Infrastructure, which then also, again, I think there's always the kind of give and take aspect. So
Yeah.
if you provide, for example, as China is doing, they're investing in a lot of ports in Africa.
Yeah.
So that they're able to actually improve their trade line with them.
Yeah.
And in a way then use what they've created there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, for example, I think it's very linked to both geopolitical and economical interests. They both are very linked nowadays. Yeah, a good example is the Belt and Road Initiative. You have read about it. We were talking about it. Okay, good. Okay, so none for us has talked about. Well, these countries just want to help the others. You know, no one believes that. Oh my God, wow. But what about you guys? I mean, why are you in this masters? I mean, you want here because you want your country to push well these poor countries, you know, okay? Or you want to really help people, you know, to develop? It's a big silence in oh my God, what kind of people are here? Okay. I believe many of you, most of you probably, okay, they have an honest willingness, okay, to do something good, basically in the world, basically to hopefully provide your small effort also to make the world a better place. You know, okay. My take on this, of course, is that the countries have always their interest, of course, the geopolitical interest, but don't discount goodwill also. Okay, goodwill is not the only issue, is very often not the main issue, okay? But the governments are formed by people, you know, people, okay, you know, they're people, they are also good people in the governments. They are not like evil beings, you know, willing to kind of crash the other countries, you know. So again, very often, okay, geopolitics or economical interests are gonna have a priority, okay? But the willingness to improve the world is there. You can also find it in the governments, okay? Because I've been working in this area, working with very senior staff in many countries. You find that. Again, there's very often a kind of a tension, you know, because look, I think this is eventually the best thing we could do for this country. This is the best thing eventually will be in our interest, but let's find something in the middle. You know, it's not eventually the best for us, it's eventually not the best for the other country, but it's something that is kind of an acceptable middle ground. Okay? So yeah, just I mean, my hope, guys, is that through this course also you will find that again, you know, there are a lot of political economic interest, but we don't need to fall in the cynicism of thinking that all this is just geopolitical interest, etc. Yes.
But I think I also agree, and I also would hope that people just want to help countries, especially in the government. But I think that every move that you make these days, it's really political. So like if you help, I mean, if we would just talk about helping people and being like a good human being in that sense, then I think a lot more politicians would also now, for instance, with ASA, just like act differently. But it's all really political. Like as soon as you provide aid, you also position yourself, I would say, in a lot of cases.
Indeed, and this is clearly for me as I was saying, this tension, you know, between eventually the willingness of some, not all of them, but some politicians to do well, and also the geopolitical realities. And that's I think is a very good example. Really good. I think many people basically think what is happening in Gaza is unacceptable, you know, but very few people, especially in high positions, are kind of voicing their concerns or not even talking about trying to stop it. You know, that's a very good example. And it's true that it's really reinforcing the cynicism from many people, especially I think in the global south, about basically the interest from the West basically doing good. Yes.
Just adding to the point, I agree to a certain extent about not falling into like the cynical trap of thinking that there's no goodwill. Again, that's why we're all here. But also adding to the point I said earlier this week is that this concept of doing no harm, and then yes, there's goodwill, and it's not like people are doing people come to the development field with the will to do harm, but that does not mean that even if there's goodwill, there is not harm done. And I think that is also something we need to consider to get and bring to the table a lot. Like even if there's goodwill, there is harm being done. What can we do?
That's an excellent point.
The field without.
That's an excellent point. I mean, very often harm is done despite the goodwill of the donor country in this case, or the NGO, just because there is not a real understanding, you know, how to help. I mean, we have been reading about it, you know, in I think the first two sessions, you know, like a good number of examples where we could argue that there was goodwill and then the results were positive. So that's, I mean, and I think this is, I think now this becomes more clear, especially in those who work in international development professionally, that the fact that goodwill is needed, but is far from enough. It is needed, but really, you know, that the good technical skills and the good understanding of how politics and economics work are really critical. Yes. Good. Okay, so I mean, this is very, very simple. If I would have gone much farther on this, okay, guys, so excellent. Okay. And again, I think it's the three of them are there. Okay. At different moments, some count more than the others. At some moment, this is really it. This is really it, or this is mostly it. Okay. Every single case, we need to look at it, okay, based on the political situation. Good. Okay, so now let's talk about these financial flows, okay, that go normally from developed countries to developing countries. Okay. So these are the four most important flows. Okay, if we look at what has been happening in the last 10 years. Okay. So, in your opinion, okay, what is the most important out of these four? The most important, I mean, the largest. Okay, is really quantitatively speaking the most important. Okay. So, okay.
Hello, sorry,
Yes.
Esther here. I want to take the question. I think the biggest one is the remittances. I mean, per surveys and things that people have done, I think remittances from migrants in developed countries to their home countries form the largest form of financial resources.
I cannot hear you so well. Can you repeat?
Oh, sorry. Definitely. I'm happy to repeat. So I was saying that I think the answer is remittances because per data and survey out there, migrants in developed countries send a lot of money to their home countries compared to the ODA, FDI, and then the bank lending.
Do you think that
Thank
remittances?
you.
Thank you so much. Right. So let's make a poll here. Okay? Make a poll. Who thinks that ODA is the most important? You can raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you can raise your hand like the it's not for me, it's not for you. Okay. Okay. Who thinks that bank lending is the most important? Okay, who thinks FDI, like foreign direct investment is the most important? Okay, good. Excellent. What about remittances? Who thinks they are the most important here? Okay, excellent. Good. So these are the figures, guys. Esther, good point.
Thank you.
I mean, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think, well, yes, I.
Last 22 years is remittances, by far the most important from aid. Okay, coming to the countries, okay, we'll talk about it also at some moment, okay. Then the FDI, the foreign direct investment, okay, money coming from private companies, okay, to European countries, has become also really a very, very big thing, okay, as you see. Okay? And this is very much related to China, as we will see now, okay. Bank lending also very important, as you can see, and ODA also not something you cannot really competition with, but it's, of course the figures are really not so big compared to others. Carolina, please.
Yes, the bank lending is from the same national countries or like state countries or from foreign.
From developed countries, basically. Okay.
But not multilateral banks.
So the thing with multilateral banks is that if they are concessional loans, that means like preferential loans, then they will count as ODA.
Okay.
So what is happening more and more often is that we'll see this in another day, but what happens more and more is that multilateral development banks, they make a plan, basically to make an agreement with the recipient country where part of the lending will be concessional and part of it will not be concessional. That's why I think also the bank lending is going up. Okay? There is also, as we will see, a lot of bank lending coming from Chinese banks also, which are like the large majority is not concessional, so should not be, according to the official standards, is not ODA.
So can you explain exactly what does concessional mean?
Yes, sorry, because we went very, very far, very fast before. So concessional means, I will show you here. There it is. Okay, so you don't need to understand all of this or remember or anything, okay? But just basically, concessional means either it is a grant, okay, or it is a loan with conditions that are much better than market conditions.
And do usually countries pay back those loans?
Yes. I mean, if they don't pay them back, they get into big problems. Yeah. A very big problem. So we'll talk about it in another session. Yeah, let's leave it there because there's much to say, but we'll have a specific session also on MDBs, on the development banks, so we will look at that. Okay. Good. So, okay. So you can see here a list of the largest donors as percentage of their income, okay, of their GDP, sorry, and here in total. Okay, I think interesting now to look in total. The biggest one is United States. Second is Germany. Okay, then Japan, France, UK. Okay, who is missing here?
China.
China.
Why China is not here?
It's not ODA.
It's not ODA, yeah? Exactly. It's not ODA. We will see now that basically not only China, but several countries from the global south, they are challenging now the concept of ODA, saying, well, eventually this is not the right way to count, to measure basically the impact we are having in international development. Now, just also for your information here, okay, if you look at ODA, where is the money going? Okay, most of the money is going to bilateral development programs, so basically government to government. Okay, so the French government is providing basically financial support to the Iberian, or Ghana, or the Indonesian government. Okay, then a large part, also important part, is going to multilateral ODA. That means the donor country gives this money to a multilateral organization, can be the United Nations or can be a multilateral development bank. Okay. Also, some part is going to humanitarian aid. Okay. And more, in fact, is being accounted as the support in countries that are receiving a high number of refugees. For Turkey also has been something like millions of Syrian refugees for many years. We are counting this as ODA. Good. Yes, again, this is something I want you to be aware, again, but it's not really to memorize or anything. That's for you to understand also when we look at the multilateral development banks, the way they kind of divide the countries, okay, is like you go from the low income country, okay, to a lower middle income country, to a upper middle income country, to a high income country. Normally, high income countries have traditionally those that were providing most of the aid. It's changing again now, okay? Low income countries are the poorest, and basically this was middle income country. So, for example, now China is considered, I think, already an upper middle income country. Okay, India is considered now a lower middle income country. For you to have an idea. This is the way aid is normally ODA here. I think this is ODA, how it's divided by sectors. Okay, we have been talking that in the last period, not the period of social scientists, most of the money were going basically to social infrastructure and services. You can see it here, okay, with the real figures. Okay, other sectors like refugees important, also, and then economic, humanitarian aid, and others. So, please do remember already, these are, just to refresh your mind, okay, the three periods we have been talking. That is the social scientist period, okay, where we could argue it most of it ended in early 2010, 2015, okay, with the new challenges that we saw in the second session, the new geopolitical situation, the new global challenges, etc. So now, okay, what I would like you to do, guys, okay, is to experience, okay, in your skin, okay, what are the kind of challenges that you face when you are, on the one hand, a donor negotiating with a recipient country, okay, and when you are a recipient country negotiating with a donor. Okay? So how are we going to do it? Okay, this is going to be a little bit noisy, but I think it's going to be okay. Okay, get yourself usually in box 2. Okay, if at some moment you need 3, it's okay, but just if there is no other option, please, because it's fun for you guys. Okay? And then you will. Let's see. Okay, so I hope this is not very impolite, but basically you choose with whom you are gonna do this role play. Okay, you see who is the youngest person in the two. Okay, So the youngest will be representative the European Union representative in the country, okay? And the oldest will be the Minister of Development in the recipient country. Okay? And then I will read it down. The oldest, okay, the youngest will be the European Union representative in the country. Okay, may I have some silence now, please? This is important, please. Some silence. So the oldest will be the EU representative in the country. Okay, the youngest will be the Minister of Development in this country. Okay. Now, once in the room. Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay. Youngest, the EU. Oldest, the minister. Okay, it's okay, yes? Find our way, guys, okay? Okay, and now, okay, you go to session 3, and you will find 3 files. Okay, first of all, read the general instructions that are the same for everyone, okay? And then read the confidential instructions according to who you are, basically, okay? I will give you I will give you like 10 minutes, okay, to read everything. Okay, you need to read quickly, okay, guys, okay, and then you can start. Okay. Now, for Kezia, Ana Lucia, and Esther, I will put you in a breakout room. Okay. Play you 3. Okay. Ana Lucia. Are you there? Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So for the first 10 minutes, you just decide basically who is going to be the EU, who is going to be the Nubira Minister of Development. Okay, I will leave you here for the first 10 minutes in case there are questions in here. Okay? And in 10 minutes, I will send you already to the breakout rooms.
Okay, just to clarify, one person as the EU and one person as the foreign direct minister, foreign affairs minister.
Yes, sir. You will be the EU representative.
Okay.
Kezia and Ana Lucia, you will be both part of the Minister of Development of the country. Clear?
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Only you can get it on. 25th August. Okay. 99 March.
You're the Minister of Development. Okay.
So just as I shared, there is an error in the general instructions, the budget allocation, the pro industry should be 20% allocated to education and health and 80% allocated to local industry. So that's a mistake.
So,
Yeah. The common sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good. In 2 minutes, we will start. Okay.
Internet here. That sucks.
Can it be the percentage difference?
The pro industry is the opposite. That is actually 28.
28. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready? Okay, 1 more minute, guys. 1 more minute, and we just. I mean, again, it's just to get the feeling of. You don't need to know perfectly like how everything. Okay, don't worry. Okay, it's not an exam. It's just a role play.
These looks everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly.
What's the
Okay, guys, now you have 20 minutes, okay, to make, let's say, 15 minutes, okay, to make a good deal here. 15 minutes, okay?
High amount of money, especially in industrialization. We know that these government policies, so we have to improvise something which always can work, because it's inventing the industry. Mobilization you're in a really complicated horrible before, and right now
Thank you. Okay, now please let us close computers again, okay, and go back to in person the class, okay? Close computers now, please, and we are back to the class. The discussion with the class. Good. Okay, so someone would like to share the agreement or the no agreement they made regarding the investment. What should we prioritize? Anyone want to share? Yes.
So we agree with 50%, would go to health and education, and 50% would go to local industry. And Jim made a good point that they've just gone through a civil war. They need to invest in infrastructure and labs. So yeah, health and education should be the primary focus.
You agree with that?
Yes.
Yes, all these people, you know, all these keep dying in the, you know, in the. We have to say, oh,
That's why we're going to invest, 50-50.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Yes.
For example, we have like this conversation, but also thinking as a government, you want to boost your economy, but also if you have these children dying, you need to have, especially with this political confusion and that you can have another civil risk, you need to focus on the population and giving them like what they are needing right now. So we decided to go for this approach, but with pro-government for the other two.
Okay, you basically find a
We
balance.
found a balance.
Yeah, very well.
I think the short term would be the best solution for the population.
Yeah.
And then like start gradually like changing in industry.
Next, very well. So this is just a tension we are finding more and more. Okay, only between Western donors and countries in the global south. Okay, where Western donors have this very strong pro-poor agenda. Okay? While in many South countries of course they are interested in helping the population, but there is more and more feeling that really the way to get out of poverty is going to go basically through industry and economic development. It's not clear. I mean, there is not an obvious right and wrong here. It's clear because as we have seen, for many years there have been a lot of aid going to economic development that has not kind of succeeded. Okay, now the aid going to economic development is going a different way. Okay, so hopefully it will work better. Okay? But still, this discussion is ongoing. Okay? Good. Regarding the pro-democratization measures, okay? Another group would like to share the agreement. Yes, here, Hongwan and Priscilla. Priscilla, you're gonna, I need to change my glasses before the end of this.
Of a modest transition to democracy, because Hwang brought up a very good point that at the moment there is ethnic divides, and speaking to the point of doing no harm, like yes, democracy is in the best interest of the country long term and in stimulating economic development, but if there's still a lot of ethnic divides and there's a democratic election and one candidate that's elected is from one ethnic group, then we'll start another one that's also gonna be not in the best interest of their long-term economic development. So if we have to build the infrastructure, maybe building the separation of powers.
Yeah.
So that we can then move to that, I think that might be the best interest for the country, given their context right now.
Yeah, excellent. Very well, very well. Good, very well. Yeah. Your name? Alejandro. Good.
So we agreed on the 80-20.
But let's focus now on the democratization. Focus now in the democratization part.
Yeah, okay.
So they're still in the room.
I never.
They're like in the breakout room, so they're not in the lesson.
The democratic part, I never explicitly mentioned, but I focused a lot on the importance of education, and I was going to and we said that there were going to be experts from the EU.
But sorry, I really would like you to focus on the democratization part.
Yes, exactly, but I'm about to say that. They were going to teach the children a lot about democratization, so they could basically indoctrinate the children in the democratic country.
Good luck with that. Okay. Yeah, but what was the final agreement?
Well, I don't know anymore. I thought we had agreed on it.
Okay, very well. Another group would like to share their experience here on democratization, like here. Okay. Your names, please. Yes, we bring it next time. And Marjorie, please go ahead. So what was your agreement?
We came actually.
I need some silence here, please. Yes.
So we came to like a modest agreement.
Okay.
Sorry, Pablo, we didn't finish.
Yes, okay, we're back to the. Going to bring you back. Okay, well, already in the briefing, and I will ask you now, okay, about the second point. Okay? Okay, now let's go with you, two of you, please.
So I was very convinced about transparency. So she said that we could start with a more modest approach.
Okay.
And then move on to like maybe more political reforms, more ambitious political reforms.
Okay. Why did you agree on that?
She kind of convinced me with the fact that like right now there was a lot of instability as well, to kind of focus more on like the actual side of like the elections and commissions, but now that I'm thinking about it, it doesn't sound like great.
Well, I mean, with these arguments, when you come back to Brussels, they will tell you, so we're giving $100 million to this government, and it's an autocracy, there is no any kind of democratic control, no one knows what happened with the money, what's going on here.
It was a very bad decision.
Keep in mind, because there are like kind of, when you make decisions, you need to report, basically, and then, you report to people who have kind of some strong beliefs or on this, okay? Good, thank you very much. Good, now, Esther, Kezia, and Lucia, what was your agreement?
We didn't come to an agreement. We're having passionate negotiations, Pablo.
Okay. Good. So, for the third element, okay, the presence of European companies. Okay, anyone like to share the agreement here? Yes, Juliana.
Yeah, we agree on.
Juliana, yeah, go ahead.
We agree on collaboration.
Yes.
Basically, because we agree on the pro-industry. We wanted to report like the loss of industry, but we needed the collaboration of it, but in a moderate way.
especially because we're transitioning into a better democratic government,
Okay.
so that's why we agree.
Excellent. So who was playing the role of the EU rep? You, eh?
Yeah, I know.
Now you know the people from the.
I pushed.
They're gonna call you like, "Hey, what's going on here? We're giving them 100 million. What is here for us? You know? Yeah.
She pushed, but I pushed, but.
You put them, no, you finally kind of give away the money. It's not my money, so it's okay. You know. We talk about the lack of accountability of people working well. You can see here. You know.
It's more complex than that. That could be argued so many angles.
Okay. Yes, please go ahead. Yushin and Anna, go ahead.
Yeah, we were more a question we were talking about like when
You
this
three, no,
just
you two. Okay,
yes. We were talking about who has the ultimate like decision because of course we're here like in a safe place and maybe come to an agreement, but often this doesn't happen. So at the end, who is the person or the EU representative or from a country who takes the decision? I mean, because if you don't come to an agreement, what happens?
I mean, the thing is, in this situation, there needs to be an agreement because if not, the money will not flow. No, because the money is coming from the EU. There's no agreement. There is no money.
But so usually it's the representative of the country that has to, I don't know, like give up something because if not, then they won't get the money.
It has been the situation for many, many years. What happens now is that eventually the guy from Uvira will say, I'm going to take a look to the Chinese embassy, see what they say. No? That's basically what could happen now. No? Because, that's it. We develop more of that. Yes.
But I think also the EU, I mean, they also try to change a lot their perspective, I would say, and like also investing really on like project-based initiatives. So also with Global Gateway, for instance, if you had I think like one of these discussions, then you would also come to an agreement on like a specific project that would foster the economy, and it's not so broad.
Yeah. This is a new approach. Gateway, which is more focused on infrastructure and economic development. Yeah. Basically, the idea is that they want to do both. So, yeah. Excellent. Good. So yes.
I wanted to add that my name is Gabriela.
Gabriela, yes.
We were discussing for the first point very quickly that Adrian made a good point about diversification of the industry. So the government, it was me. I was pushing for the cacao industry and like we wanted to grow that. But he made the point about diversification and I think that's really important because that we made an agreement in middle ground, 60% for the education and 40% for industrialization.
Okay.
So we didn't go 50-50, but 40 and
Good. Perfect. Excellent. Very good. So I mean, for me, again, it doesn't matter that the final agreement. What matters is that you negotiate with your best capacities. Okay, because that's important to make it really a real learning experience here. Okay, so you need to really put yourself in the skin, of the person you're representing, and you negotiate with goodwill, but also defending what you think are the right decisions and your interests. Okay, so with this role play, I wanted to show you these dilemmas. Okay, the different perspectives. Okay, that donors and recipients have, when bringing projects. Okay, and I don't know to what extent the Uvira government talk about the situation in Uvira, the reality, the political realities, but this is something we need to be aware of. It sometimes happens that the donors, especially the NGOs, they are not fully aware of the political realities in the country. And when this happens, there can be real issues with aid. So, for example, here, the vision of the EU is, well, this is an autocracy that has been a civil war. Okay, the people who won the civil war, they took control of the government. Okay, and basically, we would like this country to open up, basically, because this is not a real democracy, and this is not really the way that we believe countries can flourish without democracy. Okay. And then, of course, if you look at the counterpart, will say, well, we won the war, it was terrible, many of our people died. Okay? If we open up for democracy, eventually this will bring a new war. And the nation, if we open for democracy, we will power, basically, So these political realities we really need to integrate them when we do an analysis of basically what is the best way to provide support to the country. Good. Okay. So I have some more slides because it was about Chinese development aid. Okay. So just to give you some points now of the rise of China and a key actor in international development. Okay. These are the China principles for international development. Okay. The focus is economic growth. It's very clear. Okay. The Chinese policy is not interference in the internal affairs of other countries, so they are never going to say, "Oh, you should democratize the other way." Okay. Thousands of operations, equal with the relationship with partner countries, at least in theory, because at the end it's true that whether you are China or wherever you are, when you are giving the money, you have obviously power. Okay. I think very interesting, really, and many countries in the South appreciate it, is that, you know, the logic of the Chinese aid is win-win. It's saying, I'm giving you like aid, but it's not just because my kind heart, but also because I think through this aid you can improve, but also I can improve. Okay? So this kind of, the theory of this is that this creates a more balanced relationship. Okay? And as I said, no political strings, okay? Other than not recognizing Taiwan. Okay, that's the only red line, basically. Okay. So, okay, this is something that I will give you. You can read more in detail later. Basically, the Belt and Road Initiative, very important geopolitical initiative by China in order to create kind of communication and economic development kind of belts, that go from China up to Western Europe and also to Africa. Okay, again, very much linked with this international development cooperation with the logic of economic growth, economic support, and just for you to have an idea of the amount. Okay, this is the blue is the ODA. We were talking about the ODA, the official development aid. Okay, so if we look at basically the financial flows coming from China to other countries, this is from 2014 to 2021. Okay, if we look at ODA, China, in fact, is not really punching in their weight. You see the US, Germany, Japan, even France is giving more money. Okay, but if we look at what is called the other financial flows, okay, which again is very much about investment and loans with market conditions. Okay, the amount is just amazing. This is very much linked to the BRIC, the Standard Nation. Okay, so okay, that's it. So let's interesting thing now. Yeah. So just to give you some elements on this, so the bet of China has been really big in terms of money. There are so many. If you know, for those of you who are African, who have been to Africa, it's just amazing in terms of the amount of Chinese presence in Africa, Latin America, in South Asia, very much in terms of business and building infrastructure. Okay? The bet here, okay, is that all this investment will bring economic growth, following the logic of which theory? The new structural economics. You read a little summary about it. There is a book basically written by Lin Yifu, okay, he was a top position at the World Bank and now he's a professor at Beijing University. Okay, and basically, the theory. The theory is that they are kind of inviting the European countries to follow the Chinese path, okay, in terms of investing in economic sectors where there is a relative economic advantage compared to other countries, so they can little by little compete in these sectors with the rest of the world and little by little build their economies. Okay? So my take on this will be: it is too soon to say how well this is going to work, because the big investments started happening like 10 years ago. Okay, many countries now are very, very indebted. Okay, the level of debt to China is now very, very high. Okay, and now the question is, will we see this growth coming? Okay, the first analysis I have seen show that these projects are bringing growth. Okay, still Again, it's too soon to say, okay? And we will need to see to what extent this growth is strong enough, okay, to really pay back basically for investment. Okay? But there is a chance, and only if it works, that will be amazing because we will be finally seeing like economic growth in Africa and some countries in South Asia where this basically hasn't happened basically since the 1950s. Good. Now we're out of time already. I would say if anyone has a question, you can come now and ask me. Okay. Any question before we finish the class? Any comment? Yes.
It's the remittance, the importance of remittance.
Yes.
Recognized in the developing world.
A very good point. Yes, eventually not enough. I will talk about it in other sessions. Okay. Good, guys. How's it going with the readings? Is it too taxing on you? So it's a lot of reading. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of reading.
It's fine. Your instruction, so.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to know what to focus on.
Yes.
Yeah.
That kind of, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, that's something that you like just need a quick reading. You don't need to learn this, you know, okay? Again, some of them normally are shorter. Okay, these are very important, like the newsletter on economists, you know, okay? So I will keep trying like this, giving you interesting readings, and those that are really long, just to say, okay, focus in this, and that. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Hello, Pablo.
Pero me pide una es que no, pues lo trabajo todo.
Make sure that I got accepted.
Cuando se ve el
Also,
Yeah, I know. It's mandatory. Really? Yeah. I think no one is gonna put like reading. Some people like to review it in your shape, like, oh, you got it, I will go.
those increase, really growth is not done at least.
Oh, really good. Surprise. Oh, wow. 7 hours. Wow. Okay.
So,
Yeah, that's like end of day all day.
Yeah, I'm like, that's tough. I was trying to copy you. I was like, I need to that was so bad.
So are you now like
Take picture. Yeah, but no, you shouldn't be like.
No, disagree. I need to decide who I'm getting rid of now.
Let's be honest. It's like the state of questions. Yeah, you're wrong, I guess you got ready to go. Yeah, it was like comparative advantages. I remember that. I think I want to. I think. But you don't have anyone.
I want someone. I want to bring someone who's going to get me points. Start.
So there's a good player, just European league, you can choose from other leagues. Only from yeah. But you're doing great, that's good.
I'm not I started badly and now
You're like a developer.
if I was a country, I'd be
A middle. And you start even though we so you're like South Korea.
I don't know.
We're gonna hang out. It's a bar.
It's like a high end, because I feel quite sick. It must
That's how it feels. That's how it feels.
Nature of party, there are.
Sorry.
8 euros a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today. Did you guys have that? I went to the that's important thing. Yeah, I went. 8 euros a month.
No,
I mean, it was a little.
When you have the US.
There wasn't a girl.
That's the right one, like the older. Yeah, like the and then reading along.
That was great.
That wasn't great. I thought that was China.
Obviously, they are these countries.
Yeah, and this is also just like economical, like cooperation. I thought like, yeah, of course we do.
I'm like, I'm always tired. I can't sleep. Like it's only one correct. And like some for me, like reading for me to sleep.
Instead of getting 0, you get -1.
You think about it, that's the problem.
Yeah, I think too much.
Yeah, don't think.
Bad habit.
Hi, Esther, are you there?
I'm here. Hello, Pablo. Pablo, please, I couldn't take the quiz. I sent you an email.
I don't want to change for Zoom, okay?
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, Pablo. Thank you.
Pablo, it's so popular.
Germán, Esther.
Not Pablo.
No Pablo.
Okay. Don Pablo, sorry. Thank you.
Can you do me a favor? Can you have a contact with
Yes,
the-
I'm listening.
Can
Sorry, can I what?
you have contact with the other students?
Yeah, she's so good.
Okay, because of the noise in the background, I can't hear you, but I sent you an email.
You have to take and they like we
I think they were like, there's no way you know your friend and she's now like saying, it looks like a nice place and I was like, right, I don't like it anymore and it was really good. And they we both like per portare a casa da mangiare c'era dato una gratis.
So now my next time.
You're paying $8 and then you can pay $10 and there's somebody you can get it for free, like your saving account. I need to pay like 40 euros per month, so I don't do like if I don't yeah, don't grow my
Oh, it's good.
Oh my God. And then that's part of it. Find out about me for classes, not like I have to talk about so you already got something. I'm just so I'm so good at making and I didn't have
So please sit down. Are you? Okay. I'm a little bit under the weather. Okay, so you guys are going to help me with the class today. Which you always do anyway. And this is the last time I'm going to ask you the three things, no? Name, where are you from, and your mail. Okay, this is the last time because there are too many. I'm going to try to remember, but you know it's not going to be easy for me. But Then I just with your names, okay? 1 second that I have. I go crazy. This is long. Yeah, of course. You know, when I teach my student opportunity cost, that is very important in economics, I ask them, what is the opportunity cost of being in this class? And this is the sacrifice you made to be here, which is your second best option. So, sunny, nice weather, you rather be in the Parque El Retiro than here, you know, that's what you're. Okay, Madeline.
So are you from the United States or Texas?
Priscilla.
I'm from the United States as well. I'm from New York, and I'm from government.
Gabriela.
Here. Colombia, I studied international relations.
Vida.
I'm from India and I studied social work.
Okay. Calambari.
I'm from India and I did business administration.
Peter.
I'm from Brussels and I studied management.
Okay. Tatiana.
I'm from Barranquilla, Colombia, and I study law.
Okay. Camila.
Camila, Venezuelan American, international relations.
Okay. Esther. Yeah, Camila is bringing us breakfast, right?
Yes.
Esther. Okay, Esther, I know where are you from. What did you study? Sorry?
Yeah, this is easier.
There is no connection.
I think Esther said she sent you an email or something like.
Oh, okay.
But maybe.
Juan Antonio?
México, Monterrey, International Party.
Okay. Clara?
Here, Portugal, Bragança, Portugal. Political science and international relations.
Okay. Carolina?
Hi, I'm from Peru and I study law.
Okay. Julia?
Here, Italy, I studied philosophy.
Okay. Julia?
Here, Italy, from Milan, and I studied international economics and marketing.
Okay. Diego?
Dominican Republic, Big Data Business Analytics.
Okay. Kesia?
Hi, I'm Kezia. I'm from Ghana and I studied business administration with a major in human resource management.
Joseph?
Here. I'm from New Hampshire in Canada and I study entrepreneurship.
Okay. Alejandro?
Puebla, México, International Business Advocacy.
Okay. Caterina?
Confederation, Moscow, I studied European business.
Okay. Tepte?
Here with Turkish business.
Okay. Stefania?
Here, Spanish Ivorian, and I studied political science and international relations.
Okay. You stay here?
I did the MIM as well,
Okay.
but not political science.
No political.
Yeah.
Stephanie?
Hola, finance and international trade.
Maria? Maria?
Sorry, what's our names? Our full name, Maria Garcia,
Maria.
and I studied philosophy and political science.
Mayank?
Engineer and MBA.
Very good. Yeah. Usinha?
Yeah,
Finya.
we're from China. I love marketing.
Okay. Federica?
Here, from Italy and I studied economics and business.
Okay. Angie?
I'm Angie, Colombian Venezuelan, and I studied political science and statistics.
Okay. Isabel?
Hi, Isabel from the US, from Florida. I studied international relations.
Okay, Yun Chen.
And Jun Chen from China, studying international relations.
Okay. Yi Li.
Yeah. Chinese, I studied philosophy.
Okay. Connie.
Yeah, I'm Scottish and I studied interpreting and translation.
Okay. Hong Wang.
Chinese, human resources management and political culture.
Okay, Marta.
Here, I'm in Spain from Valencia, and I studied international business.
Good. Caterina.
Yes, I'm from Vienna, Austria, and I studied international relations.
Okay. Giacomo.
Yeah, from Italy, politics, philosophy, and economics.
Okay. Eva.
Hi, Greece and Germany, and I studied international relations.
Okay. Aidan.
Hey, I'm Aiden. I'm from the US, New Jersey, and I studied international affairs.
Okay. Yeah, you.
Dalia from China. I study Spanish literature and interpretation.
Okay. Nicole.
Here, I'm from the US. I studied Spanish and global politics.
Okay, Gonzalo.
Spain, business management.
Isabel.
I'm from Peru and I study international politics.
Okay. Juliana.
Here, I'm from Bogota, Colombia, and studied law and public policy.
Okay. Ana.
Here. I'm Ecuadorian and Swiss, and I studied political science at law.
Did you go to Guillermo Lasso?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so you are going to learn about Guillermo Lasso. Ana. Anna.
Yeah, from Germany, and I studied European studies.
Okay. Marjorie.
Here, I'm from Puerto Rico and I studied international relations.
Okay. Is international relations winning the contest here?
Yes, so.
A lot of people did international relations, huh? Crystal?
I'm from the US, South Carolina, and I studied experimental psychology.
Okay. So you're going to help us.
That's what I'm
Lim?
Yes. Swedish, studied management.
Okay. Sep?
Yeah. I'm from the UK. I studied philosophy and politics.
Okay. Fiorella?
I'm from Venezuela, and I studied international relations.
Okay. Gil?
Jill, I'm from the Netherlands, and I studied psychology and neuroscience.
Okay. Freya?
Hi, I'm Freya. I'm from Brussels and I study politics, philosophy, and
Okay. Alice?
Dominican Republic, business management.
Okay. Ingoing? Please tell me the correct way.
My name is Ting Ting.
Ting Ting! I should remember that. No, when we have a drink, we say ching ching in Venezuela.
From Shanghai, China, and social communication.
Okay. Ana, Lucia?
She's trying to join online.
Yeah, he's trying to join online.
Okay. You know what is the problem? If you talk to them, tell them that I'm connected with
Yes.
with Pablo, sadly. Anyway,
Here, China environmental science.
okay, good. So, some of you came with me to Guillermo Lazo's, ex-president of Ecuador, presentation the other day. So guys, the ones that I don't remember all the I remember some of them that went over there, but I just want you to tell me if you heard something familiar during his speech that is related to this class. Yes.
Well, your question to him on like economic growth and expanding on just not like GDP.
Okay.
He had some very insightful answers
Okay.
regarding focus on child malnutrition, and like the advancement of like women's rights and like economic empowerment as other measures of economic growth.
Okay. There was something interesting at the beginning of the talk. He was talking about himself. Do you remember somebody else that was there? What was important, that part at the beginning of his introduction for this class? He said he was the smallest kid out of 11. He came from a poor family, but he did something that helped him do better. Remember that? Who else was there? Okay, you guys, please help me out.
So he wanted to be independent.
He wanted to be independent, okay? So he wanted to pay for the school, right? So how do I call that during the, remember how do I call that during the talk? When you do better than your parents, remember that?
Yes, it's social mobility.
Social mobility, yeah, we talk about social mobility. Because he explained that he was a poor kid, and now, if you Google him in Wikipedia, the net worth of the guy is $30 million, which is not bad, no? He ended up buying a bank in Ecuador, and he became rich. And it was funny because when we were talking about social mobility, there is something in his family, they have many kids, so he has 5 kids. And all the kids went to the university, but he didn't go to the university, which is interesting. So a topic that we are going to discuss here, that we want to end poverty, no? One of the things we need to do to end poverty is to increase social mobility. And to increase social mobility means that people have to do better than their parents. You also mentioned undernutrition. And this is in the syllabus, because we have a topic that is about undernutrition and poverty, okay? Sometimes, because I told you that I know a lot about Latam, and I don't know so much about other regions, I have to be honest with you. Undernutrition is not such a big deal in Latam, but it's a very big deal in Africa and also in some South Asian countries, okay? So that's why it's very important for us to study. Do you remember what I say about undernutrition and why that was so important in this class?
Our kids don't have the right nutrition, they can focus on studying and can't learn and
Okay.
they can.
Okay, so if they don't have the right nutrition, their health is going to prevent them to learn. And if they don't learn, then it's going to be more complicated for us to have this social mobility, because education is one of the key ingredients, and we are going to discuss, for economic growth. You wanted to add something else?
No, they don't have it. They have malnutrition, they don't have the cognitive.
Exactly, yeah, and this is very important. And when we talk about education, I'm going to stress out this point, because today, probably the most important skill we can have is to learn. That's because things change so quickly and technology change so quickly that we need to learn how to learn, because you have to be learning all the time different things. And from 0 to 5, correct me if I'm wrong, is the most important stage in the brain formation. So if we can help kids from 0 to 5 to have a development of the cognitive abilities, those kids are going to do much better. So for us, attention in education to this stage in life is going to be important. The second one, I'm so happy that I have German, Austrian students, Swiss students, because I want you guys eventually to tell us about how is the education system in your countries. Because you also discover something that is very interesting. Not everybody has to go to college. And because not everybody has to go to college, some people can go in a different path, but which is good. They learn technical abilities and then they find good jobs. And this is something like that in developing countries. And I know a lot about this in Latin America, but maybe we can learn also something like that. Because let me tell you what is the challenge. The challenge is the following. In economics, we talk about flows and stocks. What is a flow? I'm going to give you an example that you're going to understand perfectly. You go to a bar, and you order a beer. The guy is going to open the tap, and that's the flow. Okay? Flow into your glass. When the guy closes the tap, you have a glass full of beer. That's the stock. So let me tell you how this is important in economics. What is the flow in education? The flow in education are all the kids that are going through the system, right? Imagine those kids doesn't finish school, primary or secondary. Then we have the stock of the kids that didn't finish, right? So we know that if they have formal education,
they have a better chance to do better in life. However, the stock of kids that didn't finish, they are in trouble because those are the guys that are going to join the gangs, that are going to do drugs, that are going to do bad stuff. So if we find a solution to deal with the stock, they're also going to do well. And how do we deal with the stock? The stock are the guys that didn't finish, but we want to provide them with an opportunity. And the opportunity could be skills for them to do something that is necessary for the country, okay? And we fail many developing countries just to do that, okay? So this is something I want you to remember. Anything else about Mr. Guillermo Lasso that you want to highlight before I start with our points?
No, I actually had a question about something you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that the kids who don't finish secondary school, primary school, they're the stock. What happens about the people who do finish and then there's not enough jobs in the economy in the country?
That's also a very good question. Okay, but we can use the same system to solve it. Let me explain you. I will start with my examples of my own experience, okay? My last post in CAF, in the development bank, I was a country director in Uruguay. So I moved from Madrid to Uruguay and I started to do developing programs in Uruguay, okay? One of the things I found when I got to Uruguay is that Uruguay is a middle-income country. I think I mentioned this in the previous class. However, the dropout rate in secondary was very high, okay? You know, the only country that have a higher dropout rate in Latin was Guatemala. Guatemala is much more poor than Uruguay. So the question was, these guys don't finish the school for one reason, because what they learn is not important for them. Okay, so the guys, even the guys that finish, when they see what they learned during the program, that was not useful to get a job. So to solve that problem, we can do something similar. And what we can do is in the formal system, we can introduce some skills for those kids to get a better chance to having a job. Because imagine, you know, it's a shame that my Spanish student just left, but here in Spain, I have a nephew that came here to study, but you're here. And they were studying Latin in the school. I have nothing about Latin. It's good to know. The only word in Latin that I know is in economics, ceteris paribus, everything else. But I don't know any Latin. But these guys were learning Latin in high school. And I said, well, good. But you know, what is that going to be useful for? Okay, that's a problem. So what we did in Uruguay was to introduce some skills within the formal program, so those kids were more able to get a job. And that's the reason why I want my Germans and Austrian students eventually to talk in this class, because what they do is that the companies are the ones that say to the system, those are the guys that we want to come to work for us. So the government helped to shape up the curriculum of the schools, so these guys have a better chance to get a job. Okay, so, well, this is not education yet. It's some months from now. So I just wanted to give you a flavor of the things that we're going to discuss. Okay? Okay. Okay. You know that I put in the syllabus some chapter that you need to read, no? And I'm going to put some more materials for you to use, okay? This is a kind of an introduction to economic growth. When I do economic growth, I told you before, there are two ways to think about this. One way is a more academic way. And, you know, when I say this to my undergrads, they always laugh. They say, I like models, no? But I have to specify economic models, no? I like economic models. And we have many models, no, that we can use to explain economic growth. So we are going to study some of those models. But before I do that, I just want to give you the intuition. For me, what is important for you to develop is the intuition. Then we can get into the math of the models and see what are the limitations of those models. For example, the most famous model in the world is called the Solow model. And we are going to study a little bit this in the next class. However, one of the limitations of the solo model is that one of the assumptions of the model is that technology is exogenous. So that technology is outside the model, which is very bad. Because if technology is outside the model, then we cannot explain how Korea, China, and other countries use technology to develop because they use technology. But the models assume that technology is outside and only take into account labor and capital. Okay, that's one of the limitations. Then other models try to introduce technology within the model that are called endogenous growth model, and those are also have some limitations. But remember the balance I want to strike between the academic part and the hands-on part. So that's what we are going to do today. It's more about what these models tell us intuitively about how to generate economic growth. Okay, this is what I want to do. Action by pattern. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know is that until very recently, we were all poor. Okay, so when I mean that we were all poor, means that you see this is price over here, no? 18th century, and then we were all poor. So the US was poor, Venezuela was poor, Germany was poor, everybody was poor. And then something suddenly happened that we became richer, some richer than others, okay? Do you know what happened there in 1800 something? Industrial Revolution. And what is Industrial Revolution about? What do we did in the Industrial Revolution?
Steam engine.
A steam engine. What do we call this in a very more general technology? And you see how come we cannot have technology exogenous? Because technology is a very important part of the explanation of how can we grow. And the people that take advantage of the technology are the ones that are going to be better off. But, you know, what is the new technology everybody's talking about today that is going to change us forever?
Yeah.
And then you can use it in this class. Okay. I'm sorry, I have some motivations, you know. Motivation for you to study economic development. This is, you know, Ipsos is a pollster that is very famous around the world. So he did this poll around the world about what are the main problems humanity is facing right now. And the first one right now is inflation. But inflation is very related to everything that we are going to do here, because if there is high inflation, a lot of people is going to be poor. They are not going to be able to afford food and energy, for example. Second problem for humanity, poverty and inequality. Poverty and inequality, which is at the core of what we are going to deal here. Let me tell you one trend that is important. In developed countries, let me see if you know the answer to this. Is inequality growing or is inequality diminishing? It is growing. Why inequality is growing in developed countries? What is your hypothesis?
Well, the wealth disparity, the wealthier are getting
Okay,
wealthier.
okay. Why is that happening?
Because of some say it's almost, how do you call it again? Generational wealth.
Okay.
Starting to become a factor.
Okay.
But also with the new technologies, as certain startups, they have increased kind of.
Okay. Okay, that's a good explanation. But let me tell you a challenge to your theory. Imagine instead of teaching you development economics, I teach you, or I have a friend over here that is going to help us. You teach us entrepreneurship, and we all become Elon Musk, and we make millions. So, in theory, every one of us can become an entrepreneur and start a business. Okay, so maybe the lazy ones, sorry to say that, are the ones that are not going to make money. Okay, but And the core of your argument is the following. We are going to have people in countries that can have access to the tools to become an entrepreneur. But we are also going to have people in countries that they are not even have those tools. And they are not going to become entrepreneurs because you need a minimum set of skills to do that. Okay. Yes.
Globalization, because now a lot of the, before, for example, the US, people can have a good job in a manufacturing firm, but because a lot of that manufacturing job exported to like low income, labor intense countries that people pay a lower wage, so people lose their job.
Okay, and I'm also going to challenge your explanation because that's absolutely true. Because in international trade, the countries that are more competitive, China, for example, will manufacture the goods and services. However, the people that was on those sectors in the US, they move to a different sector, or they can move to a different sector. For example, now you import the stuff from China and you become a retail chain and you become a service-oriented economy. So you will create jobs in the different parts of the economy. But maybe at the core of your argument is that the jobs that you are creating now are not as good as the ones that you have before. Okay? And we are going to also use a theory to study that. Yes.
Regarding also the markets, I feel like in developed countries, there has been a trend towards more conglomerates, more oligopolies, and that also concentrates wealth in just a couple companies.
Okay, that also makes sense. Okay, but because I'm challenging today everybody here, and we also challenge that because that's okay. But if we all get a good job in one of those companies, we are going to make good money because they are making money. So we are not going to be as excluded as somebody else. But maybe your point is that even if with the concentration of companies, there are some people that cannot get jobs in those companies. Okay? Think, for example, about Peru, Ecuador, in which we have a lot of informality, and those people never have access to that kind of job. Okay? So now I tell you my take on this. Technology is a very important part of this because if technology starts to develop and my workforce cannot adapt very quickly to that, I'm going to have two groups of people in my economy. I'm going to have a group of people with the skills that are going to be able to use the technology and get the high-paying jobs. But I'm going to have a bunch of people with the skills, but we know the right ones, and they are going to get jobs that are lower-paying jobs. If that happens, the gap between those lower skilled workers and the higher skilled workers is going to widen. And this is actually happening. And let me tell you something in particular about the US. In the US, the demographic change in the population made that you have two income earners in a household. Now we have more single parents living by themselves, and they generate only one income for one family, which also made those families lag behind people with more incomes, okay? And this is also important. What else? Crime and violence, unemployment, financial and political corruption, healthcare, climate change, immigration control, taxes. It's a long list, but those are the top things that worry people today, okay? Let me give you more motivation to study this stuff. This is poverty. And let me give you first the good news. Because of this graph over here, you understand that when we discovered the steam engine, we started to develop very quickly. And the GDP per capita of the humanity started to increase. If that is the case, and we are still developing, then this is what happened with poverty. Poverty starts going down. This is the good news. Poverty is going down many places in the world. Because even if the system is imperfect, today, even an informal worker in Africa or Latin America can generate enough money to be less poor or to be close to pass the line of poverty. But we have other problems. I'm going to give you one problem. Imagine we are in a developing country and we are a family of 5. And of this family of five, two of them are children. And then maybe one of them have to stay home to take care of the kids, and two others go to work. If the money that these two income earners is not enough, they will have incentives to send the kids to work. And even in those cases, when poverty is going down, we can have child labor. And that's a problem in many countries. And then we need to find solutions to prevent child labor. I'm going to give you an example. We are going to go over this later on in the class. Brazil is one of the countries, together with China in the past, it's not the case anymore, with the highest poverty rates in the world. So if you manage to lower the poverty in China, in India, and in Brazil, you will lower the poverty rate of the world because those countries are big. You know what the Brazilians did? They came up with a program, very interesting one. It was called Bolsa Escola. And I will show you how to use economics to solve this problem. The program was the following. If you were in a family with low income, no, you will give money to the mother. To the mother, important. Okay? If you give, I'm going to be politically incorrect. If you give it to the guy is going to drink cachaça, which is the stuff we make caipirinhas. No? Then they give it to the mother, and there was a condition to give you the money. And the only condition was you have to send your kid to a school, and I need to check that the kid is in the school. Otherwise, I take the money away. And at the beginning, the mothers didn't care if the kids went to a school or not, because they didn't understand that was important, maybe because of educational culture, but they wanted to get the money. So they sent the kids to the school, no? And then you leave people out of poverty and you start giving an opportunity to a kid that otherwise wouldn't go to the school, okay? So far, so good. Then, when the kid is in the school, you say, well, now I have the kid here with me. It's like, I have you here. Now I can give you coffee. I can give you food. I can give you a doctor. So when the kids were there, we started to do more work with the kids. And we can save more money to the family, because if I give you 2 meals, when you are with me in the school, I save money to the household, and they can get out of poverty and do other things with the money. Okay? It's a wonderful story. That was done in Mexico as well with Oportunidades, no? A program that is similar in Mexico. However, there is a catch. You can have a political capture of the program, because if the government tells you, the next government, if they win, they are going to take the subsidy out, okay? So sometimes this could happen, and actually, this is anecdotal evidence. You know that Bolsonaro, the former president of Brazil, was Bolsonaro known for? It was like the Trump of Brazil, right? It was a guy that was authoritarian, pro-business, no? And this guy was anti these poverty programs, of course, because he said, no, people have to earn their life. However, he increased the program. Why? Because that was a way for him to win the election, because it was a very popular program in Latam. But let me go back to my graph over here. What do you notice here? What is the region of the world that is suffering the most right now? Sub-Saharan Africa, because you see, even though poverty has been declining at a very slow rate, and it's kind of stagnant. I will show you Latam also with that. You see here, Latam is this gray one. See over here, poverty is not going down anymore. When you see Europe and Central Asia, and you see East Asia and the Pacific, poverty is still declining, okay? We also need to understand why we have this difference in poverty rates, and why some countries are going faster than others in the poverty reduction thing. We can even have the following situation. Because there are so many ways to measure poverty. we can have problems with that. You know, this measure over here is the World Bank. But if you measure poverty with a poverty line, a national poverty line, it's more accurate because in the country, they know how much money the people need to not be there. Okay? So last week, the poverty rate of Argentina was shown. And the poverty rate of Argentina right now is 50% of the population. Half of the population in Argentina today, according to their poverty line, is considered poor. The neighbor country, which is Chile, the only difference between Chile and Argentina is the Andean range in the middle of them. They have the same wine, stuff like that. The poverty rate in Chile is less than 9% using the poverty line. So even in a region, even in Mexico, even in Brazil, within the countries, we will have this big difference that we need to address and specify. Something that we are going to learn about how to fight poverty is that one of the best strategies is to know who is poor. Why? Because you can target the problems. One of the problems we have in many parts of the world is that we tend to subsidize some services. I give you an example of my country. We are an oil producing country. So the government decided to give us petrol for free. No? So I have a cousin that once came from Spain to Venezuela, and he wanted to pay for the gasoline tank because he only paid 1 cent of an euro for 80 liters. Okay, it was cheaper gas in my country than water. Okay, what is the problem with this? I will tell you what is the problem with this. This is the most regressive subsidy you can ever have. Because if I have a Mercedes-Benz, a BMW, I will fill my tank and I don't want to pay anything. So I'm getting a very big subsidy from the government. And the poor guy is in a bus with 50 more people. So it's very regressive, this kind of subsidy. And that's the reason why targeting is important in poverty fight. Please.
My question was with why is the Middle East and North Africa increasing in compared to all of the others?
Wow, that's a good question.
Everyone is decreasing,
And they
even
are
the
increasing.
sub-Saharan Africa, even though they're of course the ones that
Well,
are suffering the most.
I'm going to tell you the truth. I have no idea, but I'm going to have a hypothesis. You know that some of these countries went to the Arab Spring. And during the Arab Spring, there was a lot of turmoil in many of these countries. And for example, countries like Lebanon, and Syria, etc., they went through a very tough patch of economic growth and performance. So maybe this is part of the explanation, but it's good the question because this is the kind of question we need to ask when we see the numbers. Yes.
Could immigration, modern slavery be a reason in the Middle East?
Of course, it could be too. And I give you an example with my own country. Again, you know, my own country is beautiful because we can give so many examples of my own country. 20% of the population of Venezuela left the country, more than Syria, without a war, just because the economic conditions were so bad. Poverty rate in Venezuela, nobody calculates that because the government is not calculating the poverty rate anymore. However, we know, according to some academic estimations, that over 90% of the population is in a situation of poverty. What is the end result of that? Nobody wants to go. So Mr. Trump said that we go to Aurora, Colorado, and we have crime rings and stuff like that. But the truth is that 2 million of Venezuelans just crossed the border to Colombia. And my Colombian friends here know what is the impact of that in a country. Because how can you get 2 million people overnight and provide them with all the services that the Colombians are already having? And let me tell you guys, I thank you very much because you were very welcoming to us, to Venezuela. However, as you said, that is going to increase the poverty rate in Colombia, for sure. Because how can you maintain 2 million people overnight that they don't find jobs and they have problems, etc. So that's the reason why another policy that is very important to think about it is immigration. But in the case of Colombia, it's very difficult to deal with a crisis like that because it's too many people too fast. And the problem to being an economist is that I get my crystal ball and I predict the future. And the future is not good for Colombia in terms of immigration. More people from Venezuela is going to go to Colombia, is going to go to Brazil, is going to go to Peru, is going to go to Ecuador, and we start having these problems, xenophobia, stuff like that, because of course, if you go to Colombia and you are a good person, but you don't find a job, chances are that you are going to go into crime and stuff like that. Okay? But that's a different story. It touched my heart. Okay. Okay, I already told you this. You guys told me about the Industrial Revolution, how that changed that. Okay, this is the great acceleration. And now, let me tell you what the studies about economic growth agree upon the factors that will generate economic growth. Let me go back to the point that you were telling me over there about entrepreneurship. If you want to be an entrepreneur, and you know this very well, you need to get money out of what you do. And the only way to get money out of what you do is that there is rule of law in the country in which you are starting your business. And at the same time, that you can have a chance to fight. For example, imagine that we are in the UK and I start a business and somebody copy my idea and I start doing money with my idea. But I have protection over my idea, so I can sue that guy because the judicial system in the UK will work for me and I can guarantee that. No, if you are an investment banker, you know that if you are going to invest in a continent, you are going to put money over there, you need to get your return. Okay? And that's the reason why in many countries money will flow and in other countries it's not going to be the case. I'm sorry, guys, you see my presentation, all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is going to be important for our economic growth model. The other things that are going to be important, probably the most important part, and that's the reason why I talk so much about education, health, and the nutrition, have to do with the labor productivity. The labor productivity is the value what is produced per worker per hour work. Tell me, answer the following question. If in a country you have two labor markets, one for the informal people and one for the formal people, how do you think the productivity of the formal and informal compare?
What do you mean by informal and formal?
Informality means people that don't work for a company and maybe is working in selling food in the street. Okay? Or working, yes.
I would say formal people, they have more technology so they can be more productive.
Okay. So labor productivity for formal workers is going to be higher than labor productivity for informal workers. You already know that if that is the case, and we pay people for how productive they are, the gap between those guys is going to increase. And we are going to have inequality.
But for example, in Peru, more than 70% of people are informal and they prefer to stay informal because they don't pay taxes. And
love this question.
so they're having more money finally. Like, how do you?
That's a very interesting point. It is true. 70% of the population, imagine this number.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. But there are countries that are even worse than Peru. Bolivia have more informality than Peru. We are talking about more than half of the population working in a very, I'm sorry for the question. Yeah, no, very bad job. Okay? No, they are record me, so
Okay.
Therefore, the productivity of their work is going to be low. And they don't want to become formal. And this is a good question. And this is a policy question. How do I make people to become formal? How do I make people to understand that paying taxes is good? How do I make people to understand that even if you become formal, you can have some kind of social protection. And I'm going to talk about cases I know, like Chile and Uruguay, in which informality is the lowest in Latin America, no? And it's a combination of carrot and stick. There are no incentive for people to become formal, and there is also big punishment if they caught you not being formal. I have several questions. I go this way.
Is there an index that exists or a term called a informal dominated economy?
Yeah, well, let me tell you how they calculate this. How do we know that 70% of the population in Peru is in the informal sector?
Yeah.
We do a survey, and normally we call the household survey in the country. And in that survey, we ask the people, when were there last week? And they will tell you the job. If they were in a company, they will tell you they were in a company. If they were informal, they will tell you they were informal. So with that numbers, it's the same way we calculate the unemployment rate. One of the problems that we have is that in many countries, unemployment is calculated taking into account the formal and the informal. So Peru could have a very low unemployment rate, and that could be misleading because we know that behind the scene we have a lot of informality. I have another question over there.
Oh, yes, I was gonna ask that oftentimes, as you said, this informal kind of work group doesn't actually get calculated into the labor force, which is discouraged. Is that what you call it? There's a specific
Oh,
name.
Yeah, I know your point.
And so that also then shows a discrepancy in, for example, who's actually active in the labor force and who's unemployed, so that.
No, this is an important point, but it's a little bit different from this one. You are saying that, imagine that I'm out of the workforce and I'm looking for a job, but I've been looking for a job for 2 years. So I become discouraged. I don't want to look for a job anymore. That's called hysteresis. No, that's mostly European stuff. And that's caused because of the labor laws. But that's important because if you spend too much time out of the labor force, you lose your skills. And then you may have an incentive to become an informal. So that's a cause of informality. For example, in Spain, before you tell me something, in Spain it's very normal that because the unemployment benefits are so generous, we have a lot of people in el paro or unemployed, but at the same time they have a job in the black market because you can spend a lot of time in with the benefit. Instead, in the US, because they understand incentive and there is a trade-off here between labor protection and incentive to work, in the US is shorter and the benefits is lower than in many European countries because you want people very quickly to get back to the labor force. Yes.
I was just gonna add 2 points regarding informality.
Please.
One is that many times what we consider formal labor creates forms of precarity, and other times informal labor is creating a source of security for workers. And as well, the other point I was going to say in development projects that many times they're also taking advantage of informality for like to move forward like they are basically profiting and creating capital out of, for instance, social capital. So there are many times that when there's a development project being developed, there's a really good reading that talks about this called bottom of the pyramid, and how, for instance, when you're putting forward a neoliberal development program, they're going to take advantage of the social informal, like the social capital and the informal network of certain women or certain groups to also advance and capitalize from it.
Okay.
And I think it's, how also this informality can benefit, like it's, not that I'm forward.
No,
I'm not supporting it, but I'm saying that many times it's also capitalized.
No, actually, there is a lot of people that support informality. Let me tell you why. Because when you have a country with an economic crisis, like the ones we saw in the Arab Spring, when we have a crisis so big, like in Venezuela, some people say informality is good. Why? Because it's a way to get a job very quickly. Okay, it's an adjustment mechanism that can help you very well. But, going back to your points, I agree with that. But then the problem that we have in those countries, when this happens, is that we don't have the strong institutions that regulate what happened with that. You know that if you are in Spain now, you live in Spain, and I want to hire somebody to clean my house, I can do it. And the person that is going to clean my house here in Spain is going to be an informal worker. And that's because they rather be informal than be formal. So I will pay per hour, and the worker is going to be informal even here in Spain. If I do that in Uruguay, I go to jail. I go to jail, and I have to pay a fine that is so big that it never occurs to me to hire somebody to clean my house informally, because the institutions and the law and the enforcement was so big that you don't take the risk to hire somebody in the informal sector. Okay, so going back to your point, it's not easy, but I'm going to tell you some tricks to try to lower inequality in some countries. Understanding that lowering inequality will be good because people is going to get formal jobs and they will do better. Okay?
No question. It's a little deep, a little theoretical. How do you balance this? Like, you're promoting formal jobs, but at the same time, don't you think it's like taking away from the essence of like the country and the culture? I say this because, for example, like I went to Ghana for the first time this past summer, and like you could go and the people would like handmade like kente, and that was so beautiful. But then it wasn't like in a business. They were doing it their own. That's like it's very important to the essence of the culture. Or Venezuela, like you said, you said that it's very regressive, the thing about like, oh, gas is so cheap there, but it's like you guys' inheritance because it's from your country, you know? And I think that's like, if you were to make gas, it would take away, I don't know, that's my opinion, so I can balance that.
I respect your opinion. It's very philosophical. It's complicated to explain. It's very related to her point because the question is, what made you happy? It's a very deep question. Are you happy working for Google, playing, maybe games and doing stuff like that? Or maybe are you happy working for a big four consulting firm, working so many hours and making money? Or are you happy doing some more basic stuff? And it's a very deep question, no? That I don't feel like I can answer that question. But what I understand is that in some cases, even if people is doing stuff that they are being happy doing it, that's not enough for them to survive in some cases. Or they are subject to some external shocks that they cannot control. So I'm looking for solution for those people. Or, for example, when you go to the UK now and you go to a pub, you get very angry that the pubs are not what they used to be. Now they are chains of pubs. So, but I like it, the pub where, it was my town and I go there and, all the people will be nice. And now all those are, like McDonald's. So we hate it, right? Exactly. And, but this is something that is very difficult for us to fight against because that's globalization, that's the forces that are coming, yes.
So you mentioned about the safety net that is present here in Spain, and I guess it helps, like you mentioned, it led to increase in unemployment rate.
Well, actually, it's one of the highest in Europe.
Yeah, but is it not good in like situations where you have economic disruptions like COVID or something like that, and then you limit the access during the times when you are recovering? How do you stop?
Good point. The thing is that in that case, in that particular example that you gave us, the benefits is still working, like always, because some people got unemployed during the COVID crisis, but you need to do something on top of that. And that's the reason why, for example, here in Spain, they subsidize temporarily transportation. They also gave money to some people. They put some money in small and medium enterprises because it was important for the small and medium enterprises to continue operating because they will create jobs for some people that was already laid off. So not only was important that the system was in place, but you also needed extra help with that. Okay. But the system is not flexible. When COVID is over, the unemployment scheme works exactly the same as before. And that's probably what is one of the limitations of the scheme. Okay? Yes.
My question is more about a country like Haiti.
Okay.
Where like there's no adherence to law, there's no labor productivity, there's no protection of rights. And I feel like there's been a lot of effort to help Haiti, but there's no improvement.
Yeah, that's the reason we are going to have a special class only to participate. But let me tell you, this is not only the case of Haiti. I can tell you that that's the case of Venezuela today as well. Because, there is no rule of law, there is no contractual rights, so it's difficult to invest them. I'm going to tell you some stories of people that I know that tried to start a business in Venezuela and they couldn't do it because, they could get, expropriate the company overnight.
I was trying to think the reason on your example on the cleaning ladies here in Spain and the fines, like why the government wouldn't regulate formal employment? Like what's the reason? There's always a reason why.
Yeah.
So what's the reason why they are not regulating this?
This is a good question. I will tell I don't know the answer because I cannot get into the mind of Pedro Sanchez, but I'm going to give you an hypothesis. And my hypothesis is the following. Given that you already passed some laws that are very restrictive in the labor market, and they cause unemployment because they do, then the only way for you is to try to find some flexibility in other areas to make unemployment look less bad. And that's the reason why in many countries, when you have very strong labor legislation that is causing unemployment, you are less strict with the informality.
And these ladies, they count as employed or as unemployed when they are taking their
Probably they can even, it's a temporal thing, but they can even be having the unemployed benefit and at the same time working in a house as informal. But it's a little bit more complex than that because there is also immigration and a lot of stuff behind it. But sometimes you allow the flexibility because the formal law is very complicated to change. And then you let informality to be in some countries, even in developed countries. Okay? Okay. Okay. So we're going to start with role models, but let me just give you this flavor of what we're going to do. We already know that rule of law, that the respect of contracts is very important, but then I'm going to give you some other ingredients that we already discussed. If we have got good human capital, labor productivity can increase. We already know the power of technology. Technology can change humanity and can change a country. And we need to know how to deal with technology. For example, in India, we need to know how you guys use all the technological know-how that you have, and you're applying that for the developing of your country, which is very interesting. So you understand that invention and innovation are two words that are important for you, also for China, because you guys started adapting technology, and now you are trying to develop your own technology. So these are ingredients for economic growth. And how do I know those are ingredients for economic growth? Because I know that China is growing at 5, 6, 7. It used to grow 12% in the past. And I know that India is growing 7, 8, 6% per year. So I know those countries are doing something that is making them grow faster than some countries in other developing areas. So one of my hypotheses with those two countries are related to the human capital and are related to invention and innovation. Let me tell you what happened to me when I went to graduate school in the US. I was, a middle-class Venezuelan that wanted to go to a top US university. I didn't have money, of course, no? So I applied to a scholarship and I won the scholarship. But to enter a school in the US, you need to pass a standardized test. In my case, was the GRE, no? I still exist, no? And then when I presented my test, I have to compete with a bunch of people from China, South Korea, Japan, and they always will score 800 points. That was the maximum punctuation in the exam. and I did my best, and I tried to, I scored 790 with all my effort. And then I was wondering why those guys score so good or so well in this test. And you are going to tell me about that. But I know this is a cultural scene. We were talking about cultural scene. In Asia, in China, in South Korea, it's very important for you to be good at school and to do the best grades. So US universities started to use other criteria to select the student because otherwise all of them will be Chinese, South Korean, or Indian. So they need to start looking for other stuff. For example, do you dance salsa? And finally, economies of scale, which is when you increase the size of a plant or a company, that will also help. So the theories we are going to study in the class is similar to this, no? We have an aggregate production function, and in the aggregate production function, we are going to use different elements that we already identified that are important for economic growth. Those are the workforce. Remember, in the workforce, we are looking for two things. One is education, which is the capacity of these people to have skills. And the second one is experience, because if they know how to do stuff, they will be much better, right? So the second thing is human capital. I already mentioned that. What is physical capital? What do we consider physical capital? Infrastructure, because you need ports, you need airports, you need highways. I will tell you about Spain in that is very interesting case. And
Resources?
you need plants, you need machinery, you need more, what else? Resources, of course. Yes, you need capital. And that's what we call the physical capital, and you need the technology. Okay. So let me tell you, Italian students, where are you? Okay. So Italian students and German students, you are going to help me with this part of the class. You know what is this?
Yeah.
What is this?
Thermomix.
The Thermomix. Who invented the Thermomix?
What is it? What is it?
Ah, you don't know what is a Thermomix? This is a new technology. German people, please explain what is a Thermomix.
So this machine, like you have like software that you can add, like connect to this machine, and then it saves like recipes on there, and then you just follow what it says. Like it does everything, and yeah, and I mean in the end you have a meal. But you can also like it can cook also, for instance, like simple like rice, or you make risotto, or you make soup, or like everything.
Risotto, you say risotto.
I mean, Italians are probably gonna hate it.
No, going to do risotto with it.
No, it makes very good risotto
Yeah.
actually.
But tell me something. What are the ingredients of a good risotto?
Love.
What else?
Cheese.
Cheese, good cheese. What else?
Rice.
Arboreal rice, no? It's called arboreal rice, no? How do you call the rice? That's... Okay, very good. What else do you do?
Butter.
Okay, okay. So the way this machine works is the following. I put here, I want risotto, and it's going to tell me the ingredients I need for the risotto, right? Exactly. And then I'm going to put the ingredients over there, and then I'm going to get a risotto. And you will tell me, this crazy professor, what is this related to our class? I will tell you how it is related to our class. You call these ingredients over here inputs. You call this the production function. And now you are going to tell me how these ingredients are going to be here. I want you to help me. What is the secret of the best risotto? What is the secret of the best risotto? It's the quality of the ingredients. It's the quality of the ingredients. If I put garbage in the machine, I'm gonna get garbage. I'm not saying that we are going to do a good risotto, but a good point to start is to have the better ingredients. In economic development, the better ingredients have the best human capital, the best infrastructure, the best technology, the best institutions. Those are your ingredients. And now let me ask you the second question. If I do risotto and I put too much parsley into the risotto, is that risotto going to taste well?
No.
No, because I'm putting too much of one ingredient. So the other lesson that we learn about the Thermomix is that the combination, the weight of the ingredients is so important. Let me tell you an example of how this can be true. I'm going to use the case of Ghana. Ghana has very good education. They speak English. Human capital is good in Ghana. So they have one ingredient that is good, but then they lack other ingredients like infrastructure, like technology. So if I put too much of one ingredient, even if the ingredient is good, the result is not going to be good. Okay, so quality of the inputs and the right combination of the inputs. And the last thing, you remember how was the previous Thermomix to this one?
Yeah.
How was the previous Thermomix to this one?
Forums and much more really.
Exactly. You need to have a book. No, it was more complicated with the book, and then it was not so nice and electronic like this one. So they improved the technology, and there was a big issue in Germany because the Thermomix was updated every 10 years, and this model was updated only 5 years after the previous model. So people in Germany get so mad because they were used to changing the model every 10 and not every 5. Are you more productive or less productive with this new model? You are more productive. Even if I touch a button over here and the machine tells me the quality of the ingredients, I can say Uber Eats to bring me the ingredients home. Okay, so I'm going to be more productive. So technology adoption is going to be good. We are from America, so we don't use this machine. We barbecue a lot. However, we know that if we bring this machine to New Jersey, and we start doing Philip cheese sandwich using the machine, maybe the machine will teach us how to do them better and faster. And maybe if we adapt the German technology, we are going to do well. So, quality of the ingredients, the right combination of the ingredients, and adopting the technology. Those are the secrets of economic growth, okay? And in the next class, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. And this class is going to be about the quality of these ingredients. That's also we are going to study poverty, inequality, undernutrition, informality, because if those are the case, we don't have good quality human capital. So we need to see how can we have good quality human capital. Another problem, if you are in Africa, you are in Latin America, and you have a lot of debt, how can you pay for new infrastructure? Complicated. So you are missing an ingredient over there. But imagine I want to talk about India, and I understand that India has some of the ingredients already going in the right direction. You guys have human capital, you guys have the capacity of adapt technology, but I wonder if you guys have the physical capital that is enough to combine with the other ingredients to do it. I don't know the answer to that question, but this is going to be very important for our work here, because when you choose a country, or when I give you a country, you need to see precisely this. What are the ingredients that that country has? And how is that country combining the ingredients? And how is missing in the recipe for growth in that country? That's what we have to do. For example, we are going to do this with Russia because, Russia is a big country. So I'm sure infrastructure is going to be crucial for Russia. And you guys have good human capital.
All the vegetables are running away.
Exactly.
All the ingredients. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's a good point. Because imagine, and this is a big issue in development, imagine I'm lacking one key ingredient over here. I'm lacking human capital. And I want to come up with a policy. Imagine I am in Peru. And in Peru, we produce a lot of mining, we produce good food, but we want to produce stuff that will give us manufacturing, the possibility of industrialization. We want to diversify the Peruvian economy. And then we look, what are the ingredients I need to do this in Peru? And I see that I don't have the people right now to do this in Peru. One solution could be, why don't you bring it to the country? Why don't you bring that people to the country and ask that people to help you to develop this system? Are any of you guys familiar with the Canadian and the Australian immigration laws?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Very strict.
Very strict. What are they looking for when they put the immigration system at play?
Young people.
Young people. Good.
Married.
Yeah, like I personally immigrated to Canada and
Okay.
go through the whole process.
Okay.
And it's a point-based system.
It's a point-based system. And you know, how do you score points? Because they are looking for some ingredient that they are missing. And that's the reason why Venezuelans that work in the oil industry score a lot of points. Because Canada want to develop an oil industry that is very particular. They are taking oil out of sands. It's like the fracking in the US. However, there are very few people in the world that know how to do that. So they bring Venezuelans that used to work for the oil industry because they know how to do oil from very heavy oil. So there is a similar technology over here. What about Australia? Anyone is familiar with the immigration system in Australia?
Yeah, it's really difficult to move there. You have to be supported by a company and you have to work there for 4 years and they pay for your visa.
Very good. So those companies have, those countries have immigration systems in which they try to cater some ingredients to them. For example, each time they announce new openings in the immigration pool, they will tell you which sector of the economy they want to bring over there. Because they want to develop those sectors. And because they don't have the human capital, they want to bring the human capital over there. And that's what Canada and Australia do. Other countries have a different approach. We bring immigration, young people. We don't care very much if they have the skills or not, but they are young and they are going to work. And maybe they are going to do some work that some other people in that society want to do. And that's a different approach to immigration. And this is very controversial. Why? Because in countries like Germany, like in Spain, like in the US, some people will say, like in the UK, people will say, we don't want that kind of immigration. And all the political problems and stuff start. Okay, but on the other hand, it's like when you told me about informality over there. You told me that why if we have these strong laws for protection of workers, we look the other way around and we let people work informally. We do the same with immigration. We say that we don't want it, but we really need it. And this is a big discussion. So guys, see you next week. And I attend for weeks.
Exactly. So it has to be continued.
I need to read something.
Want to write the financials for Joy.
Be honest question.
Yeah, but I told her she needs help. I will help her.
I don't know if it's realistic more than
Ojalá que no esté. Pero lo vamos a ver, vamos a ver. Claro, porque a mí me llama mucho la atención.